like sand that I'd never seen. And the blue sky, just like a postcard in the lobby. You want the end. You want the end. The first thing that you notice is just how you haven't a clue. You watch the people walk by. She opened like a feather cool.
The first thing that I filmed when I got my new movie camera was my friend Mike on his Indian motorcycle. Freedom is a beautiful thing, even though it's kind of hard to get the feeling from this footage. But he told me the story about his grandfather who always wore a derby when he rode his motorcycle. He came home drunk one night and totaled the bike. He wasn't hurt, but his derby was completely destroyed, and the only thing that was left was the rim. So the next day he went out and bought a new Indian motorcycle and continued to ride with just the rim as a kind of tribute to the good old days. It got me interested in Indian motorcycles, and I decided to do a film on them because everyone I talked to had a story. This film is about them and their stories.
Being a resident of New York City here, we claim Indians started here in New York. And every time I say that, people are like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? That's Springfield, Massachusetts, right? Well, around 1900, George Hendy, of course, was manufacturing bicycles up in the Springfield area. So at that time, there was a race down here at Madison Square Garden that he was promoting and having some of his boys race in. So he came down for the race. And Oscar Hedstrom at that same time was living down here in the New York area and building lightweight bicycles for racing for fellas. Of course, motorcycles at that time were pretty popular, not as street transportation, but as pacing machines for bicycle races. So apparently after the race, George and Oscar got together and they start chatting, and they find out that they had this shared dream, and that was, put everybody on the seat of a motorcycle. And I guess basically that's sort of how they got together and how they started, and they signed an agreement here in New York City. And of course ended up back in Springfield to manufacture them, but we're claiming this is the heart of Indian right here, New York City.
This is Bedini. I told her I wanted to make a movie on Indian motorcycles, and I asked her if she wanted to come along for the ride. She said yes. So we squared away a few preliminaries, and we're on our way.
I used to go down to go down to Portland to meet Oscar Hedstrom. So I got real friendly with Oscar after a while, and so he filled me in on a lot of things. But at that time, there wasn't any method of recording his voice. But he was a real nice fellow, very, very intelligent, and he invented more than motorcycles. He invented hedge clippers and a whole lot of different things. But I certainly enjoyed being friendly with him. Well, I'm Andy Anderson. Andy is not my real name. Sterling is my first name. But so many people say, oh, what a funny name. How'd you happen to get a name like that? So I say, well, my mother was instigator of that. So here we are in Wellington, Connecticut. I'm Andy Anderson. I'm 89 years old, and I'm here with my 1903, which is my pride and joy, although I have other Indians, but not any as old as this one. Well, I'm not sure that it is the oldest. They've got one down at Smithsonian Institute. It's they say a 19203, but it's nowhere near a 2. The 2s were cut off, no fender in the front. 3s were like that too. 4s came out here. 4s had a chain guard. This had a truxel seat, has clincher rims. The 2s and 3s are together in the brochure that tells the years. So I believe this is one of the oldest Indians in existence today.
The name Indian was chosen because it's the pioneer American motorcycle. This particular style is nicknamed the Camelback because of the placement of the gas tank over the rear wheel.
Yeah, this is a 1905 Indian. By the time, serial number 1180, and that was their production up to 1905. Actually, I think their production was 1100 up to 1905, and this was about the 80th 1905 made. Indian was the largest manufacturer of motorcycles in the world, and at one time larger than all the rest of the companies put together. They started on a decline in the early 20s. I think Harley actually caught them in sales in 1923. You have to understand the high water mark for motorcycle sales in this country was 1913. In 1913, India made 45,000 motorcycles. In 1933, they only made 800. That's a 1912 Indian belt drive, 50 cubic inch single, and they made it for 1 year, and it was such a poor seller, they discontinued it. They're quite rare because it was only made for that short period of time. But it worked pretty well, but they went back to chain, and from then on, they were always chain. This bike is a 1929 101 Scout. 101 was a series of Scouts made 4 years, 1928 to 31. In my estimation, it was probably Indian's high water mark. They're very, very well thought of. As a matter of fact, there's an association of 101 Scout owners, and that's unusual to have a group that just follows one particular small segment like that. So it's a very good model, very, very sought after.